Alrighty, good morning everybody, and welcome back to another stream. So today, we're going to pick up where we left off last week, and I guess we'll look at our Trello board here to kind of get a sense of what we were working on, and then keep going. But we're mostly working on the wireframes and a little bit more the visual design for this portfolio, so it's going to be pretty fun here. So last time we were doing some wireframe experiments. We started to move a little bit into solidifying the wireframe direction, but I think that's all right. We can let's kind of go hand in hand. So let's actually move this over to the doing section because we're kind of doing both a little bit at the same time. I know some people, if you're following like a really strict Kanban approach, you've got your number of cards here that you can only have at one time, but this is kind of our loose little system here. Let's see, and we've got our discovery doc open in case we need to review it. I might open up some of the other portfolios we've been looking at just because always good to look at your inspiration a little bit. And let's see here. Oh, we got Charlie's site and Justine's. And we have one more here. Yeah, this one. Robbie's. Awesome. Great. So let's keep hopping over. I'm going to open up Sketch here. And we'll take a look at what we were working with last week. So last time we kind of took some of the content that we have been thinking about in our discovery doc, a little bit of like this information architecture stuff, brought it over here just because I like it. It's a nice practice just to have everything kind of centralized in my sketch document. And we were kind of experimenting with a few different ways to approach our design here. So we kind of started with this one where we had navigation and it was just kind of simple. And then we kind of like, all right, what if we got rid of the nav and did more like a hero image on the background there? And then we started experimenting with something like this where we kind of have some language and maybe this kind of bubbly and then have some sort of a navigation before finally kind of coming over here. And now we don't even have a navigation. I think it's going to be an interesting experiment. And we started fleshing out the rest of the site. So we've kind of got some project information, this kind of call to action career section as well. And then we were just starting to work on this writing section, which are some of my blog posts. And then we kind of left some notes here about the community that we're building here, some Twitch streaming stuff, the about me, and then the footer. So yeah, so this is kind of where we left off. And I love that we left some notes for ourselves here. This is such a great practice. It's something I always try to do because we've been away from this for a week, and it's kind of hard. It can be hard to reorient yourself sometimes. I know if you're working on like a side project, sometimes you don't get back to it as quickly as you were anticipating. And so leaving yourself little notes like this, either in your design documents or in your code, little to-dos. I know I leave to-dos for myself all the time in my code, and I use PHP Storm for a long time, and they actually have a feature where if you type to-do, it'll like bring them all up for you. So that's also a good kind of strategy, just generally. So that's something I like to do. So let's see here. So we're talking about doing some so we had like this writing information here. We had some other ideas. I just know this is here. I'm going to bring this down just so it's a little bit more contextualized. That's the beautiful thing about working with Sketch. You've got an infinite canvas. You can do whatever you want with it, which is pretty nice. You can kind of get a feel for anything in here. We've kind of got our wave shape here. And I'm still liking this direction. I just kind of, sometimes it's nice to come back and just kind of review what you're working with and how everything has come together. And I'm liking the way we're heading here. I think we're in good shape. So let's keep on keeping on here. So let's think. So we've got our writing section. And we've got this wave in the background. And so we're talking about having some more. So I do the writing content. I do this, obviously this live stream. I've got some YouTube content as well. And then I tweet a lot. I'm thinking about doing Twitter stuff in the footer, maybe keeping that a little less present, although I'm not sold on that approach. And so on my current site, let's see if I can open up a browser here. Also want to look at my old portfolio. My current portfolio, I shouldn't say old. I've kind of got this section here where it's more of the blog post and then some tweets here as well. And so I'm not entirely certain that I want to move back to this. I know last time we were kind of talking about maybe sort of reincorporating this, but I don't think we have to. Yes, we're live. So definitely come check us out. But you all have already, so that's awesome. So let's see here. What else? How do we want to present this information here? So last time we were kind of talking about maybe doing some sort of like a call to action section. But we're kind of doing that already with this writing. I don't know if we want to have another section right away. as kind of like text on top of a background, because that's kind of what we're doing here. We also were kind of playing around with this idea of kind of like having Twitch streams in one section and YouTube videos in another, which, you know, I can go back and forth on that. The other thing that to think about is like Twitch has a really temporal aspect to it. So for instance, my videos only stay around for 14 days. And so that might not be the evergreen kind of content that I really want to be linking to, versus I do upload all this stuff to YouTube afterwards, and that is a permanent archive, right? That'll stay there. So that might be a better link, and then we kind of just make a mention of the Twitch stream as well. So that could be something to consider here. So how do we want to visually present this? And maybe we can get some inspiration up here. Well, let's say, what if we repeated this pattern here? What would that end up looking like? Sometimes it's good to just take something you've already done and just kind of plop it in and see if that could work for you. And so what's interesting here is we've kind of tightened our artboard a little bit. So we went from having a really wide grid to a much smaller one. And so maybe we can, when we kind of talked last time about just continuing with that or making it smaller again. I'm not sold one way or another. I'm just kind of, I want to see what this would look like. Okay, so this kind of is looking, that could be decent, right? But there's another thing that I'm thinking about is like this kind of says writing, but I'm wondering if we could have like a sentence or two underneath it, just to give a little bit more like context for the visitor, the user. So it's early on a Saturday morning here, but we'll keep rolling. So maybe something like this. Let's see, how big are you guys? That's 25, and that's 18. So maybe make this 21, somewhere in between. Ooh, not 211, that's too big. So 21, and we'll make that regular. I'm doing all this in Helvetica, I realize. We're gonna change that, but that doesn't have to come until the mock-up phase. We're just kind of getting a feel for all of this and how it'll work together. Maybe something like that. Maybe make it light even. Yeah, why not? We'll play with that. And what do I want to say here? Content matters. It's kind of something we've kind of been really playing with here in this approach, really getting a feel for our content as we're designing, because it just makes our life so much easier. So let's see, I write about dev, let's see, code, design, and what else do I write about? I really only write about code, but I want to start writing more design posts. So definitely something I would like to highlight here. And maybe instead of saying I write, that's really repetitive. My thoughts on code design. And what else here? What else do I write about? I really only write about code and maybe a little bit of design. So I'm not sure I want to be highlighting that I talk about anything else. Let's see what, I know Justine has a really cool, yeah, she kind of has this hierarchy, which is an interesting approach. I think Charlie has, yeah, he's kind of where we took that writing language from. And then Derek, I think, I can't remember what his, yeah, he just jumped straight into the blog. Patrick's is kind of just the page. Yeah, and just review your inspiration. That's something I'm going to keep doing throughout this because it's so helpful here. So my thoughts on code design. I mean, let's stop it there. Why am I trying to force? I mean, I know why I'm trying to force, because like 3 is kind of a rhetorical device here. But let's stop it there. My thoughts on code and design. And if I start writing more things, I can change that, right? It's code, right? We're going to code this. It's a living, breathing thing. We can always tweak it, which is awesome. It's the beautiful thing about code. And so these are, okay, those are together. Let's kind of group those. My layer management here is a little all over the place. If we were doing a handoff to another designer, I promised I would do a much better job labeling that, but we're not. This is just for us. And it can be as clean or as messy as we want it to be. All right, we'll make that like 40 and then bump this up. I'm always thinking that these should be bolded as well, but we're going to have some potentially some color differentials when we start talking about the mock-ups a little bit more. So maybe we can use some color there. Would design be a component of UX? I mean, my thoughts, design, and user experience. Oh, I probably could talk about UX. I guess design, yeah. So that's a good question there. Design, coding, user experience. I could talk. I feel like sometimes you want to make design its own thing. I forget what my design articles are on. I think I had one on like contemporary art and why that's valuable or something like that, or how that's a source for inspiration. So I kind of write generically about design sometimes too, and that can be a nice thing to highlight. But let's go ahead and throw UX in here, just because that is another topic I want to be writing about. Thank you for the feedback there. I appreciate it. I love when you guys feed ideas to me here on the chat, because it's just so much more fun to be working on this collaboratively with everybody than it is by myself. I could have spent a weekend doing this by myself, but I don't think we would have gotten to such a good product like we've already gotten to. So I really appreciate all the help and feedback and support that you guys have been giving. Okay, great. So now that we've done this, I can reuse that pattern, and that's what I really was hoping to get out of that as well. So now I could say it's like videos or streams or something else like that. So let's think here. So let's call this, I don't know what I want to label this. Like, I can label it videos, right? But that kind of is like, I don't know, that just feels generic. And so I guess I produce two types of video content right now. I've got portfolio like feedback sessions, which we do on Wednesdays. And then I've got what we're doing now, building. So I'm wondering if like building live streams or making live streams or something like that would be a more appropriate title. I'm trying to think here a little bit more. Media? Yeah, media is a good word. I think that's something we can play with here. Media, though, implies like, I always feel like media is like mixed media. And so I'm not sure if that's like exactly what I want to say. Like, it is video content. I'm not like out there making podcasts or graphic designs or something like that. So but I like the direction this is heading. I like what we're talking about here with media. So let me videos, media. Sometimes it helps to not do this in the design. It helps to grab like some text and just start typing out words, because I don't even know if this is going to be our design. Just kind of thoughts we're having. So let's kind of talk about this media, videos. And the reason we're focusing so much on the content is because it's going to inform the rest of the design here. If we can kind of come up with our label system and our information architecture, that's going to be so critical to whatever we come up with here. So let's think here. Media, videos. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? We've got live streams here. Most of my video content is a live stream. I do have recorded videos, but other people are using them. It's not so much that I host those. Oh, I didn't even think about that. I've got other pieces of content out there in the wild that I could be highlighting as well. So that's a good thing to think about. But I've written for CSS Tricks in the past. I just had a blog post there, and then I did the Vue School's Intro to Vue kind of course. And so that's content that I wasn't thinking about because I don't necessarily own it, but I've produced it, and that would be something nice to kind of highlight in this, maybe in this section or in this kind of media hybrid section here. I don't know. Let's actually go to Dribble here, or Behance or one of those, and just kind of take a look around here. Let's kind of just type in videos. Sometimes you just need to go and get some, maybe video UI would probably be a better terminology here. Sometimes you just need to go look at a little bit of inspiration to really get a feel for how you want to approach something. I was listening to the, not Refactoring UI, the Full Stack Radio podcast that Adam Wathan puts on, which is great. I highly recommend it. But he was talking to Steve Shoger, and they were talking about Steve's design process, and Steve was just kind of saying, yeah, I spent about 2 days looking on Dribble just to get a feel for the direction I want to take something. And I think that's great. I think we oftentimes think like ideas spring fully formed out of designers' heads, and they don't. That's just the reality of the situation. We go and we look and we kind of get a feel for how other people are presenting information, and are people solving problems that we're trying to solve, similar problems. And so that's just something that I think is important here. Just know that even the pros are not, they don't have ideas springing fully formed out of their heads. Nobody does that. So we all look at Dribbble. We all look at all these sites. This isn't quite what I was looking for, maybe. That's kind of cool. I like this idea here. That is actually kind of interesting. Maybe, does it even need a label? I think I always like to label content just because I think it's useful for users. Let's see. These don't really have what I'm looking for here. I worked with one designer who only seemed to copy other designs. Yeah, I think there's a balance between copying and remixing, if that makes sense. And that's something we've talked about here a couple of times as well. And I think it's one thing to like full sale copy somebody else's work. That seems pretty obvious. But oh, thank you for the follow there, Pulse the Red. Appreciate it. So there's a difference there between like, hey, I'm just going to steal this and take this, and saying like, all right, you're solving a similar problem that I'm trying to solve. Let me rework this with some other content and just take inspiration from here. My whole site, I've been taking inspiration from all these other sites we've looked at and here, right? And you can definitely see there are influences of other people. Like this is really influenced by Justine's site, and actually this whole section is as well. Versus here, that's a little bit more influenced by Charlie's. And then this is something, I actually didn't get a chance to look for this, but something else I found off of Dribbble, like this kind of header section. And this text is inspired by Justine's. But I've remixed it, right? I didn't copy it per se. I just kind of took it, fixed it up with my own content, and made it work in my own structure and setup. So that's more of what we're talking about here. Don't go out there and copy what other people are doing. Look at it. How are they solving the same problem? Can you apply that to your own scenario or context? And that's kind of more about what we're talking about here. So let's see. This kind of looks cool. I like these cards, but I was enjoying what we were looking at here. And I think this is really interesting because it's kind of this blend. It's almost like this is like mixed media content, right? We've kind of got these call to actions in here. We've got a quote in here, and then it looks more like blog posts or something else like that. And maybe I can do something like that with the media we're talking about here, because I'm going to have thumbnails. I'm not sure I'll have even text on top of it, but I have a title for every video. I'm not going to host the video on my site. That would just be too much for my server needs. But I definitely want to link out to it, so they'll all be clickable. So maybe we can think about something like that. I'm trying to think here. I've done a design in the past where it was like almost like a media wall that went full screen. Thank you, Aldra, for the follow. I appreciate it. It was kind of like, I think it was like 8 boxes, and it would stack and flex depending upon the viewport. And it was just a bunch of different types of media, almost very similar to that. I think I did that for the Metric Loop site. So that's an idea that we can kind of play with here. It's funny, like as your design career progresses, you'll recognize like patterns of when either yourself or somebody else you've worked with like tried something and it worked or it didn't work, and then you can pull on that inspiration and keep on thinking about it. So let's see here. Let's think. And we're thinking about live streams and videos and media, and maybe we can get away. All right, so let's get rid of this guy and kind of say like, all right, what if? I think that's a great question. So we're working with 1024 divided by 4. That's 256. Okay. A lot of math and design. More than I realized when I was starting. So let's, I'm going to change that. We'll make that 256 by 256. And what color will we work? We kind of changed our grayscale here a little bit. So I'm going to make that consistent. We'll leave the border on for the moment just so I can see these a little bit differently. Maybe do something like that. What am I looking to put there? So I've got these live streams and other media content. So like this is my writing. So those will just link to blog posts and stuff. But this could kind of hold my videos, which have thumbnails, and they have a title, and they have some other content on it. So I was thinking of doing maybe more of a media wall almost, which is a little bit of a departure from everything else. Everything else has a lot of white space, but video content is sort of a different beast. And so I was wondering if we could kind of experiment with this. That's what we're doing here. We're just kind of experimenting. We're getting a feel. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't work, but we can always kind of, we can tweak it from there. So let's see here. I'm going to grab these two, just to make sure we're keeping the same kind of general styles here. And the interesting thing to note is like our content at this point hasn't really gone full page. And so it's another way that we're breaking our established pattern. So adding a little bit of visual interest there. Morning, good morning. So let's see here. What are my, I guess let's go to YouTube. Let's see what some of my content looks like. That helps. Use your content to inform your design. That's always super, super important. So let's look at my channel. And let's see here. So we've got these portfolio reviews, which are awesome. We've got these streams here, building my portfolio. And this is why I wanted to look, because these titles are pretty long, right? And that's really going to impact how we're presenting this information. Also, the way they're displaying the information here, you can kind of have these sort of side panel displays versus this sort of stack display here. I think that's kind of interesting as well. So let's see here. I don't know if I copied that, so let me start by doing that. Let's just see if I can throw this in here. Yeah, so all of a sudden, this content is way, way, way bigger than the space that we're thinking about. So that'll change things. That'll really, I don't know if this is a viable approach now. And maybe we don't even need to show the title. I think we should, though. I think having that would be useful for people. So what if we do something like this? So again, this is why we try and do this with real content, because it really, that's not what I wanted to do. It really helps inform whatever it is you're working on. Right? We could have, oh, that's going to be annoying. I'll just grab it here. We could have spent a lot of time thinking about how that grid was going to work and making it pixel perfect, and then only to put the content in and be like, oh shoot, it doesn't work. Versus here, where we kind of start from the content, and that's going to inform everything. And that's why this is so important here. Okay. And maybe, so this one, these don't have thumbnails really. Maybe we can move to more of a, yeah, back to what we were talking about originally. And that's fine. Let's see, what if we did this? And again, I don't know if these titles are going to be super, and these are going to work that well in this section here. Let's give it a whirl, see how it works. And we'll adjust the width here. Something like that. See, all of a sudden, this doesn't really start to work anymore. This is why designing with content matters so much. Why is this not? Oh. We gotta bring that back up. All right, that's about 12. Let's grab this text, pop it in. Self-promoting YouTube content. Yeah, that's what we gotta do. We're building my portfolio, so gotta be doing it. All right, that fits really nicely. So let's see here. What else? Am I minority for disliking content carousels? No, I wouldn't. I think carousels have their time and their place, but for the most part, they're not great from a usability perspective for the same reason that hamburger nabs aren't great. It's because they hide a lot of the information sent that users can pick up on. That's why I think if you've, like something like this 3-tiered approach is so much more effective than something like a carousel, because the user takes one look at something like this and says, hey, I know everything that's going on here. If I'm on like a travel website and like this was like booking, this was find a new spot, this was get airline tickets, and I, as a user, was trying to come to the site to buy airline tickets, I would just have to say like, oh, there's a spot, I can keep going. So the information sent is really high. Versus on a carousel, that would have been the third image, right? And so the user would come to the page, not see what they're looking for, and keep scrolling, and have totally missed the call to action that was relevant to them. And so that's why I think a lot of people are moving away from carousels. They're great because you can fit a lot of content in one spot, and that's kind of where why people like them. They think that they're getting more bang for their buck, so to speak, but in reality they're missing out on an opportunity to actually connect with the user and help them find what they're looking for. So no, I don't think you're in the minority there. I think that's amongst designers at least a fairly common mentality. Maybe in marketing worlds, you've got more people who are into carousels, but I don't think you're in the minority there at all. So let's see. So this kind of doesn't really work with the content we're talking about here. Maybe it needs to be a 2-column layout. What if we did that? Let's get rid of this guy here. Let's just call that media for now. Yeah, when things are hard to find, that's the worst, because I think that's oftentimes somebody wasn't spending enough time thinking about their information architecture. And so how far away are you from the side? That's 50, so we're talking about 924 divided by 2, that's 462. And let's try that. So 462. 462. That's about how big we're talking. And had a momentary echo. Oh, that could be what's going on here. I will double check on that, because we've been having echo issues here for a while and I still haven't been able to track it down yet, and that would make a lot of sense. So thank you for that. I definitely want to continue pulling on that thread and try and find if that's the culprit here, because that would make a lot of sense. So let's like subtract. Yeah, try moving things again. Yeah, it's a good idea. So what did I do here? Something like that. That do it? So let's see here. All right, that's about 60 pixels, which I think is nice. You highlighted everything, deleted something. I don't know. If it happens again and you catch it, that would be awesome. But I don't know if. And I will double check that I don't have it bound later. But that would make sense, because we've kind of talked about this being an issue on the stream before. All right, let's make that a little taller. We'll figure it out one day. Let's try and make this like 30 pixels here. And now all of a sudden we've got so much more room to work with. Let me get rid of this. And honestly, I think this is I'm liking this direction already. So that's a little better. It's not perfect, but I think 2 lines is way better than the 4 or so that we had. And we're maintaining our text hierarchy, which I think is great. And we'll change this to like view. Or watch. Let's say something like that. How far away did we have those? Kind of keeping it consistent. That was 12 all around? Okay. Trying to keep a little bit of a consistent visual vertical hierarchy here. Alright, nice. Well, let's grab this guy. We did 30? Yeah. Cool. And so this is interesting. This is a challenge that I see a lot in code. So we've kind of got this as 2 lines, but that's 1 line. So how do you balance that? Oftentimes I'll play with the flex options and actually like bring this content. So where is this? I'll try and make that down to like there. So that way this one just has more white space as opposed to the whole card being cramped. But when we look at the code, we'll kind of play with that a little more. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be as big of an issue because all this content is relatively similar length. Let's see here. Let's grab this guy. Yeah, so fortunately not tons of an issue. But that's how I would approach that when the content, and it's how I'm going to code it, so that way if it ever becomes an issue, I don't really have to worry about it as much. And then I will say watch. And it would be fun if this if like each media had a type, because I might have different types of media. So like watch watch stream. Alrighty. This could kind of be a good way to, at least to start, think about incorporating some more media content into here. And maybe we'll take up that much space and we'll just have the top 4 latest videos or posts or something like that from YouTube. I think that'll be fine. And this content I think is representative enough that we don't have to duplicate it. And now I'm wondering if, so now before we're up here we have a label. Here we have a label, but I'm wondering if this content is so obvious that we don't necessarily need to incorporate a label. And I think this is something that Charlie's site is doing. So he's kind of got labels here for his side projects and his writing, versus his portfolio section doesn't have a label because it's pretty obvious what you're looking at. And I'm wondering if this would be obvious enough as well. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is, so here I've kind of got this nice header like tagline that kind of provides a little bit more context. So we could still do that. We could still incorporate something like that. And it's actually something I consider bringing up there as well. So that's going to be annoying because we'll have to shift the whole design, but that's part of the process here. So we could have that kind of context there. The other thing I was thinking about doing is like after this, kind of having more of a call to action to whatchamacall. A call to action to go check out the stream exactly. Play button on vid thumbnails. I'm actually not going to host the videos myself, so I don't know if that would be the right affordance to incorporate, because I want people to link out to them as opposed to like play it in line. So I don't think I'm going to go with a play button, but that's a good idea. Keeping headers a consistent height adds all sort of weird complexity. Do people usually do that? I don't think it's that complex. I think it's just playing with Flexbox a little bit and just kind of getting it to the right spot. I might be misreading it though. Like keeping like the actual written content the same can be complicated because you've got to just keep that in mind as you're developing it. And that's why I like to future-proof it with the code, just to think about it in the design and then let this go. Because all this has to be is like flex column and then justify between. As long as this is a div and that's difference, you'll be good. What is an affordance? That's a great question. So in terms of UX, when we talk about the ability to recognize that an element can be interacted with on the page, that's what we're talking about with an affordance here. So for instance, this little watch stream link has this underline on it, and that has an affordance, right? We all know that underlines mean that content is a link, and so that's a really good example of an affordance here. So that's kind of how that would work. How does it work in mobile views, or if you suddenly fit 3 or 1 column or headers consistent between rows? So on mobile, I'll probably just stack it vertically. And if that's the case, it should, because the parent container is changing, it should just resolve itself. So the headers would not be necessarily consistent between rows, they would just be the size of their content, so it should wrap pretty effectively there. And if you suddenly fit 3 or 1 column, so I would set a max width on this and make sure it only stays at 2. And the whole design will probably have a max width at some point. So that way we'll have some white space if we're on like a super huge screen or something like that on the sides here. This will be a little tricky to deal with, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, that's kind of the plan there. Good questions. But we don't necessarily have to worry too much about the code just yet. I just kind of, I've dealt with this problem before, so I was just thinking aloud about it. But that is, it's a solvable issue. I'm not too concerned about it. So let's see here. So we've got these cards. They're looking pretty good. I wonder if we haven't really done cards. Like we kind of have, like, so for instance, we don't have this element like in additional content. They're just kind of on the page. Which I kind of like. So more like this as opposed to something, I don't know if I guess my site would have a good example. Maybe not. I guess less of this and more of just content on the page, which I kind of like. I think cards are great and they have tons of use, but sometimes it's just kind of a little overwhelming. It's just adding more visual information to the page that might necessarily be needed. So yeah, so let's keep an eye here. So what I was talking about, do we keep this label? Do we remove it? I think for now, let's keep it. And let's just call it media. And I'll bring down this guy here. That's probably not in the right. Oh, I meant to, oops. I meant to duplicate that. That is not at all in the right group, but that's where media is. Awesome. And let's make sure we got the visual consistency going. Cool. Nice. Let's say line streams. Oop. I don't know, this is coming off the top of my head. But I don't know if I want to say that. So this is saying my thoughts on code design and UX, which I think is great. I could say I'm kind of keeping in that format because it's something like my latest live streams and videos. Yeah, I think that's fine for now. And we'll again bump this down. I think we're kind of like at 30, 35. Cool. I'm gonna group all these together. Make it a little easier for next time. Twitch uses text overflow ellipses for those headers. YouTube makes no effort to keep them equal height. In my experience, keeping them equal height is unusual. Yeah, it's external consistency. That's a good thing to take a look at here. Because this site is sort of the only place where I'm highlighting this content, I don't really want to use an ellipsis because that also, like, I'm losing the opportunity to tell the user what it is they're looking at. I'm just bringing it up because it's something a designer might think looks nice, but in reality it looks weird. Yeah, and that's something like I could play with it in the code a little bit more and kind of get a feel for it as well. So again, this is a work in progress. It's not like I'm like, this is going to be the way. I'm sure, and that's something that I think a lot of designers sometimes forget about is we'll experiment with stuff in code. And if it looks good, we'll keep rolling with it. But if it doesn't look good, we'll either have a conversation between the developer and the designer, or the developer will kind of make a judgment call and say, hey, this is not exactly what we were looking for here. My personal belief is like it feels weirder for me to have different size cards than it does to have content that has more white space than another. So for instance, like now that we have some more content in here, I can kind of play with this. So if we took this out, and then we just bump, how much? We think we have 12 pixels or something? Yeah. And so 1, 2, 1, 2. Like this feels weirder to me than it was a second ago. But again, that's a personal opinion, but it's my website, so I'm going to design it the way I want to have it. How about below the header? Are those all going to be equal as well? They might not necessarily as well. They just happen to be for right now. So that's a good point as well, kind of thinking about how those line up as well. But I always like having the button in the lowest point as possible. So yeah, so you could conceivably have this be like here, and then here this would be something like that. Yeah, and all of a sudden that doesn't line up as great as I was hoping. This though could, yeah, and these are the kind of things to ask and experiment with. So good, these are good questions, good intuition here. And as we play in the code a little bit more, we can definitely get a feel for it as well. So these are the trade-offs, right? So like the ellipsis is great, but there's browser compatibility issues. I don't know if that's still an issue. It was the last time I tried to do ellipses. They're not often, they're sometimes not supported. I mean, I could physically write an ellipses and do it hard-coded in the actual writing, but that feels like it's not going to be bullet future-proof. Again, I don't know if I have to make it that way, but these are great questions and what we need to be thinking about. So let's see here. So we've got media, we've got videos, we've got live streams. Let's call it media for now. I think whoever posted media flute, I appreciate it. Because that's what I think we're going to roll with for now here. And I'm going to add another, I'm going to grab this button here and make sure that we duplicate it. And how far away was that from this content? 35, cool. Just as another call to action. And I'm actually going to separate this a little bit more. This could use a little bit more space. And we'll just say see more. Right here. And make sure that's not, what is that, 20? Cool. Alrighty. Subtract 11 from the width. Great. Center line it. Boom. We're done. And that's looking pretty good. It feels weird because we have this grid here, but I think it's better. Yeah. There we go. So now we got the media in here. We could think about adding, so now we've kind of got this about section and this footer, and I did want to make like a real big call to action to my live stream, which I think will be nice. Let's this is getting larger here, so let's see here. Yeah, Sketch is pretty awesome here. I'm a fan. You can do a lot of good stuff with it. There are other great resources out there. Figma's great and free, and it's got some really great sharing stuff in it. So definitely lots of good options out there. So we've kind of got this media section here. I was thinking about doing more of a standard, maybe parallax call to action, but we're starting to play with this like designed. We kind of have it up here, and then we're kind of repeating it down here. And I think it might be kind of fun to repeat it again. So let me grab this guy, and let's just transform it, and we'll flip it vertically. Oh, maybe not that way. We'll flip it horizontally. And we'll have to play with the spacing a little bit. So it's not a pretty shape. And we'll clean that up in the code and when we actually want to go release this. So maybe something like this, just to kind of continue with what we're doing here from a visual standpoint, aesthetic standpoint. Maybe we're gonna have to round out this bottom a little bit more. Should probably get a little closer if I'm gonna do this. Let's see. I don't know, something like that. And just a little smoother. This doesn't have to be perfect, right? It's just a wireframe. So we don't have to necessarily knock this out of the park by any stretch of the imagination. We can kind of bring this in a little bit more. It's funny, this starts balance, it has some different balance considerations. Maybe we move that seam more. Maybe we give it a little more white space. Yeah, I think that alleviates it a little bit. And now I'm going to grab this background rectangle. I wonder how far we did that. That's 308.08. That's always a nice thing to see. But we can approximate it. Wait, that's not. It's 298. There we go. So something like this, maybe? Or maybe instead of doing that, we do something like this. Just to make a little difference. So how big is this? That is 40 pixels. That is 60. Let's go back to 40. We can grab that guy. And then what do I want to say here? I join the stream. Or see me on, let's say this, see me on Twitch. Something like that to start. And the text can definitely change. Just trying to get some ideas out there. How big is this? 40 as well. All right, let's make this light. And we'll try to bring this down to maybe 35. Let's keep it like there for now. Stream on. Let's see here. I don't know if I necessarily want to embed my schedule because it is flexible and it can change. Let's talk about what we do. I build do little projects live so you can learn how to build them too. I don't know, that's kind of a good summary, more or less. And let's make this a little smaller. Maybe try 30. And maybe we can get rid of I build digital. And we can shorten this so you can learn how to build. You could shorten it so you can build them too. I'm wondering if that's too short and too repetitive or not. Let's kind of roll with this for now. Let's actually make this bold. And maybe that way we don't have to make this. I liked it light. And maybe we'll actually make this like 28. And once again, we'll bring our call to action down here. And we'll probably reverse the color scheme here because this will be on a hopefully a fairly colorful background. So let's add a color in the fill. We'll change that to like that. We'll change this to that. Yeah, it's good enough. We'll bring this on top. Make it white. I think just for the purposes of this, we can make this a little darker. Yeah, something like that. Cool. That's more or less the button. We don't want to say see more. Let's say view channel. I don't love see me on Twitch as a call to action or as a title. I like what we have for the middle part here. I think that's okay. That's a step in the right direction. See me on Twitch. Join the Twitch community. No, I mean I can say join my Twitch community, but that's I don't feel like I own this. I feel like we own this, so I don't like saying that. Check out. Oh, let's see me on Twitch. I think works. Maybe we make these uppercase. Join me on Twitch. Yeah, that's something I was also. I like that. That's more invitational. Like come. I'm not saying just watch me. I'm saying let's come join me. Have a conversation, like you guys are all doing, and I really appreciate it. Join me on Twitch. Yeah, I think that's fun. And maybe we'll make that back to that. I don't think we're. So those are kind of all caps. These are all caps. This is not. These look all caps. Let's go to all caps here. The majority of the content is all caps. Cool. Cool. And then now we've got this about section here. I'm probably going to reuse my current about section because I think it is visually interesting and it kind of works for me. I don't know. I haven't really thought about changing this up too much. But I just kind of like it. I think it's a nice little summary here. I really put together a newsletter so I can change that to a live stream. But I think this works pretty nicely. So let's go ahead and kind of mock that out for, or wireframe this out a little bit more. Get rid of that. We're getting there. We're almost done. It's kind of crazy to think about. So let's add a rectangle. Oh, almost done with, well, not almost done with the project. We can't launch this, but almost done with the landing page. So let's go ahead and make this color. How big is my, oh, thank you, Unseen NRG, for the follow. I appreciate it. That's 150 away. Did I nail it? No. There's no way. That's just bananas. That can't be right. 1024 minus 300, that's 724. 24 divided by 2, 362. Yeah, I didn't think I nailed it. I'm off by 1 pixel. Okay. Pretty darn close though. That's one thing that I always surprise myself with as I've gotten older as a designer. Just being able to guess semi-accurately what the heck my pixels are. Maybe make this closer to that, and we'll just make this one lighter. And we're gonna have the image there, so that's like 114. Maybe we make this 125, and that'll be the image. Right, that kind of feels roughly what's going on. That's 290. Let's try making this 400. Make this one 400 too. I don't remember the relative sizing, but this is starting to look right-ish. Bring that over like that. And yeah, more or less. I don't know why this is on. Oh, that's because this is a weird shape. Yeah, so that's more or less what we're going to be doing. Kind of make that darker to denote different content. So traditionally, when wireframing, like this would just be a gray box with an X in it, and that's fine. I think if you're wireframing with other people, definitely follow convention. For my personal site, because I'm the only designer and I know what I'm doing, I might just skip it, but let's make it more realistic, more like a wireframe, just for our sake here. So that kind of denotes typically that this is a image graphic as opposed to a like background or block of content. So that's just something to keep in mind here. And so we've got some about details. We've also written a lot of different ideas here. So site content. So that was kind of just a summary of who I am. This is what we put up top. So this is a chance for me to be a little bit more personal than I am up top. So at the beginning of the design here, it's more of a call to action to say who I am as a person, like as a professional. So UX designer, full stack developer, and teacher. Build digital projects, teach people how to design and code, stream on Twitch, share thoughts on Twitter, and write for my blog. Let's get in touch. So this is a little bit more what I want to say. Yeah, I want to say professional. And so this about section can be more personal. And I actually like, I was just kind of thinking about this generally. I like what I have written here. Hi, I'm Nick. I live in Austin where the sun is hot and tacos are plentiful. Because that's true. That hasn't changed. And I kind of like what I've got going on here. So let's tweak this here. So let's say that's going to not be that big. So what is this? 25. Cool. And we'll change that to be left aligned. Let's add a little more. There we go. A little more white space. About me. You can also just say about. I don't know. About just seems so impersonal sometimes, so I like kind of saying about me. Let's bring this down to maybe 25. And again, I should make textiles, but what are you going to do? All right, it's 18 with a 24 line height. Regular, get rid of that. Cool. And now I can bump that up. Alrighty, and let's make this all come together a little more. I gotta bump that up by 15. Cool. Alright, so now this is too much content for the shape, which is fine. So a couple things we can do here. I'm actually gonna make it a little smaller. Yeah, I think that is good enough. 20. Okay. And I think in reality, like this background is much larger than this guy is, just to create the effect. It's okay to have a little white space. So let's keep that in mind here. Let's try 600. That's too much. 500? Yeah, that feels better. Oh, Don't want to do that. And so this is 40 from the top, so we'll just keep that going. Yeah, like that. And my spare time, I tweet, blog, and I'm going to say stream. Stream on Twitch. That's what I'm doing. And I believe this is a hyperlink as well. Check out Lambda School, it's awesome. The best place to go learn anything tech. And then this will just be a link to my Twitter. Blog. And I guess let's get rid of this. It's kind of feeling a little repetitive at this point. And we'll just say stream. Cool. And if they don't know what a stream is, they can go look it up and find it, or just follow the link and get a little bit more context. And now for this get in touch section here, I'm probably going to do something similar to this. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing the newsletter or not. It kind of was, I did it for about a year and it was great. And I think I had a lot of fun with it, but it just became so much to keep up with every month. Or actually every week. I was doing it weekly. So I don't know if I want to keep doing it. Sorry if you're on the newsletter and you're watching this. It just takes a lot of time and energy, which is all good. I also don't know if I want to continue displaying my email. Probably not going to do that anymore. In favor of more of a contact form. So let's change this. Let's grab some of this. Get in touch. I like that though. So let's bring this down here. 40/40. Great. Let's just make that consistent. And again, what was that, 30, 20, 20. Hey, thank you so much for the sub. Wow, I am Fraser K. I really appreciate that. That's so awesome. And you were the first sub, so congratulations. For those of you who don't know what a sub is on Twitch, I didn't until like 2 days ago when we got affiliate status. Basically, if you sub, I get a little money, Twitch gets a little money, and you're allowed to, I think, sub to as many streams as you want on Twitch. Anyway, it's really awesome, and I really appreciate the sub there. Oh no, I appreciate it. I couldn't do this without you guys, honestly, because it's really, it can be kind of lonely up here if you're just talking to an empty camera. So I really appreciate when everyone tunes in. This is awesome. Man, I am just over the moon right now. This is so exciting. So thank you so much. I'm gonna keep doing this for as long as I can here, and once we're done with the portfolio, we'll roll into other projects and other cool things to build. So I'm kind of starting to tentatively plan out the future schedule. And I didn't mean to talk about all of this right now, but this is just so fun. Also, some more long-term things. I'm working on a Discord so we can talk together offline as well. So if you have questions about what you're working on or you want feedback on your portfolio a little bit more asynchronously, that'll be a great place for all of us to hang out. And then also working on a little bit more of a digital community for us where we can help each other with our portfolios. That is in the works, and something, maybe I'll stream it. Maybe I'll stream myself building that. I think that would be really fun as well. I'm kind of conceptualizing a few things right now, but once I have the pieces put together in the puzzle, we'll start working on it. But thank you so much. I am Fraser K. I really appreciate it. So where were we here? Oh, that'd be awesome. Working on a team project. I definitely use some UX feedback. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Pankakan. Hope I'm saying that right for the follow. Yeah, definitely. I know. We kind of talk about things on the stream, and there's only so many hours in a week. I do this for what, 3 hours a week, Wednesday and today. So, but having a little bit more of an quote unquote offline, off the stream place for us to talk will, I think, be super awesome. So stay tuned for that. All right, so let's tweak this a little bit. All right, so I'm going to say contact me, and I'm going to make this a hyperlink because I want this to go to the contact form, or contact me, or reach out on any social platform. I'm going to change this. This is a little awkward. Reach out to I'm going to direct this directly to Twitter, because that's where, if you want to get my attention, Twitter is the place to do it. Because sometimes I realize that some people have tried to contact me, and on other platforms, which platforms I didn't even know had messaging, and so I totally missed them, and I felt super bad because it's like, oh no, I didn't mean to blow you off. I just didn't know this had messaging capabilities. I feel like every app has messaging these days, so it's kind of crazy. Stay in the loop. With my, I'm gonna say my streams. I probably should keep doing the newsletter. I don't know. We'll consider that, or bring it back at least. I'm gonna say follow me on Twitch, or subscribe to my YouTube, I guess, a channel. Cool. And we'll make this a hyperlink as well. Awesome. Awesome. And then I had a bunch of social icons here, so we'll go ahead and just kind of add some placeholders for those. What do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of those. I don't know why I did circle. That should be a rectangle. For no other reason than that's sort of the convention we use when we're talking about wireframes here. So I'm just going to get rid of the borders. I wish there's probably a way to disable that in your settings, and I should honestly look into it because it drives me crazy. Alrighty, and it'll be like 10 pixels. There we go. Cool. Group that up, and we're going to flip the color scheme here so that it's white on dark, and we can actually bump that a little darker just to make that stand out. Awesome. Look at this. It's all coming together. 15 pixels. I think that's more or less. This seems like they have a lot of white space here. Maybe we can take the paragraph. I guess you can't go negative with that. Anyway. Alright, so that's like 20. This is 15. This is 40 from the top. So let's bring this up. Alrighty. That's 300. And that will be 260. No, 280. I did that math super wrong because I forgot what the heck I was doing, which can happen when you're designing. Alright, let's start grouping some things together here. Let's clean up the layers a little bit more, and then we can group all these together. Group that, group that. I realize I've been forgetting to group things, but you know, it's alright. It's funny, this seems so much smaller relative to everything else on the page, and it's also not really following any of our guidelines. So how can we adjust this a little bit? One thing we can do is like layer this up there. Let's try the scale button, see if that guy will help with that. If you're not familiar with scale, it is one of my favorite things to do. That's going to be too big. In Sketch, it honestly saves me so many times and so much, because sometimes you can't just go like this, everything won't work, but scale keeps everything proportional, and sometimes I forget that, so definitely use it if you can. Yeah, there we go. It's a great tool to use. So maybe we'll overlay it a little bit. Disable the border, layer style, set it as default shape. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. That is what I need more of. I'm going to bump this up a little bit more, and I'm going to change the background here, just so it's a little clearer. Maybe I'll change this background because it's going to be more of a, yeah, I think that's what I want. Cool. So we'll kind of play with layering things. And this layering may or may not work, but I think for now it adds a little bit more visual interest. You're kind of playing with figure ground. Oh my goodness, thank you so much, La Friedel. I really appreciate it. Wow, this is amazing. You guys rock. I don't know what more I can say, but thank you. I really appreciate it. That's super awesome. I think it looks like you both subbed with Twitch Prime. There's something weird with Twitch Prime where you have to like resub every month. If you're still enjoying the content, of course. If it gets boring for you, don't keep subbing. I recognize that it's on me as well. So, but thank you. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. Alrighty, we're moving on here. So we've got our Twitch, we've got our About Me, and now we're kind of ready, I think, for some footer content here. Let's kind of take a peek at what I have currently. So my current footer is kind of this newsletter sign up, which I guess we're getting rid of now. We may consider bringing it back, but otherwise, probably not. We kind of have these social icons here. It's kind of a fun little thing. I've got some cute animations in here. That goes to a YouTube video. So a little bit of delay. I might keep that. I think that's kind of nice. But it's kind of like me and me here again and again. So I don't know. So what I do want to look at though is Charlie's footer, because I just think it's a really great footer. He just got so much information in here, and I really enjoy the contact and the Twitter form in here. And also so we've got recent blog posts up top. He does as well. It looks like his blog post is different than the writing that he's highlighting, which is an interesting approach, right? I tend to show my latest work on my landing page, but maybe I should be showing my best work on my landing page, or things that I think is the best. And this is interesting because it's mixed medium. It's or medium as well as this website, versus this is just latest posts. So that's also another interesting thing to consider here. So I don't really want to copy all of this, but I do want to consider adding this contact form in here, which I think is cool. He doesn't use labels, but it's a very small form, and I think it works. He's using the placeholder as an affordance for what kind of content we should be putting in here, which I think is pretty cool. And let's see here. Yeah, you can play with that if you want. I tend to disable that, but that's just me being a designer who doesn't want people playing with it. And as a UX professional, you should let people play with their inputs. So yeah. Oh, it's writing about Apex Legends. That's awesome. And a really clear call to action here as well. I don't know if I'll do latest tweets anymore. And I probably wouldn't do links as well. I know, I do the same. Yeah, I think a lot of people do it. It's like, from a usability perspective, like letting people define their input and customize it to their needs. It's kind of what you should be doing. But as a designer, I'm like, oh, you've broken my perfect grid and it doesn't look as good. So I don't, and it scrolls anyway, so like why does it matter? Who is doing this? I don't think a lot of people even know about it, to be quite honest. And there's Grammarly, which sometimes will break text boxes, so that's another reason I don't like to play with it. But that's just kind of where my head's at right now. So let's think here. I don't really have a menu per se just yet. I mean, we're going to about and work. So he's got a whole work section here, which is more of like his portfolio, in a little bit more detail, which I think is interesting. And he's got his whole about section, which is pretty cool. He's got patents. That's awesome. I don't have an about page on my current website. It's an interesting thing to think about. I know that Justine did, and so that's sort of interesting. And then the blog content as well. Wow, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's interesting. I think game design and UX have so much overlap and so much in common. So it's always great to see UX designers writing about games and games writing about UX. It's all super awesome. This is all pretty cool. A little out of date though, but nice visual presentation of the blog as well. All right, so we got a little off track here. We're talking about footer content. So what are we thinking here? Definitely going to have a contact form. I think that's great. Do I want to have latest tweets? The question is, how much of this do I want to rip off? And again, this is kind of like, do you copy a pattern? Do you copy a whole way they approach this? You use your best judgment here. Let's look at some of the other footers that are out there. So this one is Justine's. It's very straightforward as well. Let's see here from Derek. Doesn't even have a footer really, just blog posts, which is an approach. Patrick, made by me, which is pretty fun. Robbie's site, let's see. Yeah, so it's sort of more of an about, tutorial, contact, which is pretty cool. My page. All right, so let's see here. Let's take a look. I don't think we're going to put the menu in the footer. And I do want to I like what he's doing here. It's cool from a visual interest perspective, but I think I would include that in my footer as well. I don't love back to top buttons. I think I don't know how much engagement they get. Be cool thing to do an A/B or a user test on though, for sure. And then what else do we have here? We've got Twitter. We've got, which I have this. So I'm torn because I have this content. I'm actually just going to keep my landing page to my recent posts, just because I think that's more of the style that I like. I try to I like that because then I think like I've got to do well on every blog post as opposed to like I can have 2 or 3 that are really good and then like the rest of them are just for content. But no, I like to focus on my quality here. I like what he's doing with his links here, but I'm going to go for more of the social icon approach. I think people kind of identify. I mean, so labels versus icons. I think people know the social icons, but again, that would be an interesting user test as well. Okay, so we're down to kind of having a contact form and some tweets and sort of these details as well. So let's think here. Maybe, I'm kind of doing this with this section here. All right, let's play around with it. And we can get rid of footer there. Served us well all this time. Great. Alrighty. And I'll just tweak this a little bit. Cool. Alrighty. So now we're like at 120. So we've got the 5 sort of social icons. Ooh. Let me just group that. Copy that. And those are of course going to be the same colors, so let's tweak those a little bit. Alrighty. Can I invert that? I'm wondering if I could blend latest tweets with this content here, so let's think. For a moment, and that's kind of, oh, that got all messed up because we scaled it. I was like, what's going on here? So what if we made this 40? That feels really big. What's that, 25? Let's see here. That's the only problem with, yeah, maybe we'll make it 40. And we'll make this more like back to 18. No, that's too small now. So let's say 21. That line height's not enough. So let's make this 28, something, maybe a little more like 30. Yeah. That's the only problem with scaling is that sometimes your values get a little crazy. So you kind of just have to play with them a little bit and tweak them ever so slightly. But we got the right relative. If you're coding it yourself, you can pull your latest tweets from Twitter API, right? Would having both sets of icons so close to each other be an issue at all? I don't think so. The more chances you have to show somebody information, the more likely they can be to interact with it. So I don't think necessarily that showing them, and also I don't know if these are going to be right here, so I don't know if they're going to be that close. And the footer is something that will be consistent throughout all the pages. So I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing in the world that they're right next to each other. Yeah, I can pull the my tweets from the Twitter API though, no problem. It should be hopefully pretty straightforward. I'm not anticipating that being difficult or anything like that. Did I tweak these? Yeah, they're the same. All right, that's more or less. Doesn't have to be perfect for a wireframe, so we can come back to it. That's a good thing to consider, right? That's why I kind of want these a little bit lower on the page, maybe like down, almost even down here, and we can just do like copyright, which I'm going to grab from AMP1 real fast. If you're not familiar with AMP1, it's a great little site that has all these like icons that you need. So like copy, and you can just copy it. I can throw it in here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the graphic. There we go. And that is, I forget the name of this. If you write this in HTML, it will render, and for some reason I can't remember the name of that element. Boy, it is a tough. I haven't coded in a while. It's probably a part of the issue, but don't worry, we're gonna get plenty of practice here. So yes, you can find cool little signs, and they have emojis in here now as well. So yeah, so your kind of ampersand characters. Let me close some of these tabs here now that we don't need them as much. Give my computer a little bit of a breather. It's kind of hard running all this stuff to run the stream and everything else. So let's bump that up to Nick. To 21, and then I'm going to write content in here that says Nick Basile. Let's say 2019. Nice. That's more or less what I need. And that's probably too big. HTML character entities. Yes, thank you. That is what I meant to say and was escaping me for whatever reason. If we make it that small, we'll make it regular. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. And then these are going to be center aligned as well, and we'll bring them maybe something like that. Dope. Okay, so I think if we keep these down here, they're just going to be a little bit removed from everything else, and I think that's going to be okay. So let's see here. That's 40 pixels bold. Probably what we're going to go for here with the contact me. That might be too big, but we'll play with it. We kind of need like an H3 right now, which I don't think we really incorporated. So let's try making that 28 pixels. Contact me. I'm already using Get in Touch up here. So I don't know if I want to reuse it. So let's keep on rolling. Let's see if we make this like 150. And we'll get rid of the border, slider. Contact form in the Get in Touch area. I guess I could do that. I kind of wanted it to be on every page though, so that way if somebody was on like my blog post, for instance, and they're like, wow, this is great content, let me get in touch with this this person. So that's kind of why I want it in the footer as opposed to in the Get in Touch area. And then the Get in Touch is more of a way for me to broadcast that I'm part of these various social communities, and give them a little bit more detail about where I want them to go talk to me. Granted, your landing page doesn't necessarily need to be consistent with all your other pages. There's something to be said for the consistency where this is your first opportunity to let the user know the patterns that your website is going to have, and so if you can be consistent with your footer, that's awesome. There's also the notion that your landing page is sort of the special case, and you can kind of do whatever you want here, and nobody's going to like fault you too hard for that because everyone kind of knows that a landing page is slightly different. So those are kind of two schools of thought. I like consistency because you're orienting the user, you're helping them out. That's kind of my visual and mental design pattern. So I'm gonna probably just keep rolling with trying to make the footer as consistent as possible. Maybe we make that go to like half. Oop, what happened? I don't know. That just feels too small now. Maybe not. Let's roll with that, see how we do. Maybe we can make this side like this. Cool. Contact me. And I liked what Charlie was doing with his placeholder text. And I know it's funny, I always advocate for having labels. And so I really shouldn't break my own rule though. But I do like what he was doing with placeholder text, so I think you can do both. That'll more or less be the text in here. Oop. All right, let's make this the... Actually, I don't know if we need to make it bold, but let's just play with it. And we'll make that maybe 18. Something like that. This actually should be a little grayer. Has anyone ever used one of those forms if an email is also available? I don't know. Sometimes. I'm not going to make my email available anymore because I want to just start managing that a little bit better. So that's why I'm putting the form in. It's a good question. That would be an interesting A/B test, right? If you have your contact form and also your email and see the rates that you're getting as well. So that's something to consider. Let's make this a little smaller. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted. Let's say 125. Cool. And now we can add an email field. Ooh, almost got it. How much spacing are we doing around here? Not enough. So what's that, +7? Try making these not bold. I think that'll help the text hierarchy here a little bit more. Yeah. And honestly, these could even be smaller. Yeah, I think that'll help. Maybe we make these. 14 is about as small. You get less spam if you use a form right. Less chance for a bot to read your page and send you spam. Yeah, so bots can actually pull your email very quickly, even if you're using it in a mail too. So yes, that's part of my rationale. I have been getting an uptick in spam, so I kind of want to take it off my site. Granted, they could find it other places, but that's kind of part of it. So yeah, so part of it's managing spam. Part of it is in it, like just a little bit me being a little bit more considerate of my internet presence and my overall internet security. Just because emails can be like your gateway to anything. So if I'm putting that out there publicly, then people can have access to that. I don't really use that email for a lot of accounts though, so yeah, that's why I was using it there. So just kind of just practicing some better security hygiene, so to speak. So we've got your email. So name and example.com. Generally my default example here. And then we're running out of space. Where is my button? Yeah, we'll grab this one. Try and make these a little closer. Great. And then that button's probably large for this context, but we'll tweak it in let's say if we make that 18, that should be 16. Kind of making it around the same size as the label. Cool. Not an exact science here, but I should probably change the text before I send message, something like that. I'm going to try and make your label text a little bit more descriptive than just like submit or something like that. Just to let the user know what exactly it is the button does. Good practice. Oh, that's frustrating. Not having the right layer selected. Alrighty. That's more or less what the contact me form can look like. The weighting feels a little off. I think it's more of the color scheme than anything else. but we can, again, something to consider. And then latest tweets would be over here. I'm relatively active on Twitter. I'm not super active, but active enough. So I think just kind of highlighting me being part of the conversation, I think would be nice. So let's grab, oh, this is not going to let me grab very easily. That's okay, we can grab from Twitter pretty easily. So let's see. That's no longer 4 minutes ago. Nice. Okay, so let's, okay, that's okay. Let's make this 18 and that's frustrating. Make it regular. About 20 pixels as well. And let's see here. I'll probably do something like this. Yeah, 5, but 4 minutes. Okay, that's funny. Helvetica, thank you. Thank you, Drake Zox, for the follow. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I'm butchering everybody's usernames. I think y'all are pretty creative out there, so I'm trying my best. And we can make that like 4 or 16, something like that. Just make it a little smaller. And then I'll actually probably add maybe a button. Like, I know this inherently is clickable. You tweet. I don't know. I could go back and forth on that one, whether or not that's necessary even. And we'll actually make this fix again, or auto. Cool. Let's see what Charlie was doing. I think his were just clickable. So he's just linking directly to, interesting, he doesn't even let you go see the original tweet, which is an interesting approach as well. I kind of want to direct people to my Twitter, so again, that's the trade-offs here. I like the call to action here as well. That's kind of nice. So let's, I'm not going to have the view tweet button, but I'm going to make this have a little bit more of an affordance that it's clickable. And that will entail making it maybe bold. And making it consistent with whatever I'm using for my link color. So that will be something to consider. And if we're doing that, we can actually make this smaller, I think. We're going to make the whole thing smaller. And we'll make that 14, great. Something like that. And honestly, this could probably be 12. It's really just pretty meta information, so we don't need to really highlight it. And we'll use some colors to also differentiate that. And that'll be like that. And then we'll add some text here. And this can be like 16. I think it's my Twitter. Yeah, something like that. Where'd it go? Text duration. Great. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. Just getting a feel for that overall. And I'm wondering if we could balance out the height to make them the same height. How might we go about doing that? We could probably add a little bit more spacing just generally, so that's 20 pixels. Doesn't feel like they're the same. Sometimes guidelines are the only way you can check though, so that's good. Let me make this like 15. A little bit of symmetry here, a little bit of a Gestalt principle at work. Maybe bump that down 5, something like that. Yeah, more or less Doesn't have to be perfect, but just for a little bit of a visual balance here. And maybe honestly tweets and contact me could be reversed. Just because of how this diagonal, I mean, or we could do something like this, right? This might make it a little better for balance purposes. Right? Make that 15 and make that 25. Thank you, Sithalus. That's clever. For the follow there. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Okay. And then we'll bring this up back to the top. Alrighty. And what's our, I don't think we even established a real grid here. That's about 20. All right, minus 15. Alrighty. And that is more or less the landing page. So let's give ourselves a chance here. I'm going to take some of these grids off just because while they are useful when designing, when you're looking at it in real life, it can be a little, or trying to do more of a review, it can be a little distracting. So let's start at the top. This is a pretty long landing page. That's something to think about. But it's got all the information here. So let's see. So we've got projects. Oh, I talked about adding this to the top here. Maybe. It's kind of something to think about. They're pretty self-explanatory though, so I don't know. Maybe we don't even need the label. I kind of like it for the implied movement, but something to consider here. It's why it's good to do a bunch of work and review, so that way you kind of get a better sense of things. I like what we're doing here. This doesn't even have a label, but I don't think it needs it. It looks pretty... and what are these? 14 oblique. View resume, read more, media, see more, join me on Twitch. I like what we're doing down here. Contact me. Alrighty, so I think this is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. Is there a binding to toggle guides on off like Photoshop? I bet there is. I know you can come in here into view. Maybe this. Yeah, that's probably what I should have done. And I'm sure there's a keyboard command. Maybe we'll say it if we hover over it. And you can do other stuff, like you can get into layouts and really into grids. I don't tend to use grids like that. I kind of just build them on the fly. Pros and cons to both approaches, right? But that's kind of where my head's at. And then, yeah, so you can kind of do it however you want. I might hide this on, I was just thinking of hiding that on mobile, but I'm gonna be debating. This is gonna be interesting designing it mobile. And notice I didn't design it mobile first, right? I did the desktop version first. Pros and cons to both approaches. I don't know, sometimes when I'm articulating a wireframe or an idea, I might start with a desktop site just because sometimes I can inform the mobile site. I know people can yell at me for that because it's not mobile first, but I don't know. This is how I learned to design and how I think about it. That doesn't mean I don't think about the mobile, right? Kind of thinking about how this is going to stack on mobile and how these will stack and all these other considerations. I mean, a lot of this are just grids essentially, so it'll be pretty easy to stack. Maybe getting rid of these backgrounds here if they're just supplementary, little things like that. Making this a little bit of a different call to action, making this stackable, hiding the picture kind of thing. I don't know, little things to think about when you go from desktop to mobile versus going from mobile to desktop. But great, so now I'm gonna get rid of this stuff because we kind of don't need it anymore. So what have we done here? We've got social media, contact in the footer, we've got the Twitter, we've got latest contact, info. I'm actually going to take all of this and strike it out because we've, I think, done it all, which is pretty awesome. How much work was that? We've done 3 or 4 of these live streams. I know just in terms of designing, this took about 3.5 hours. It would go faster, I'd imagine, if you weren't narrating your full process and really thinking about it and talking with everybody, but that is roughly what it takes to put together a really, plus all the pre-work that we did, but what it takes to put together something like this. So now we've got other pages to think about here. We've got the blog. What else? We've got the tag.
tags page, which is kind of part of the blog itself. And we've also got posts, which those I'm not super, I probably won't even wireframe the post pages because I'm just probably going to mimic how they exist on my current site, which we can look at. So the blog looks like this. I might change this, this overall design, but I think these pages are pretty good. I don't really see a need to really change them all that much. Probably copy a lot of the CSS over. So that's something to consider here. These might take a little bit of changing. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier, how these tags are on the bottom, but this is all up top. I don't know. I think this looks pretty nice visually. All the cards are the same size. That's what triggers my mind when the cards are all different. So definitely feasible, definitely doable. Just kind of thinking here. So that's pretty good. I take this. I need to take this off. I don't do that anymore. Unfortunately, I ran out of time for free coaching. So this stuff will probably stay fairly similar. I did want to think about an about page. It's funny, we didn't design this with any navigation, and now I'm kind of thinking about it and thinking about adding navigation into it again. So what if we did add navigation? So we don't really need projects anymore, because those will all be here. Let's bring that back over. And maybe we can do a left nav. I normally do right navs just because it's kind of what I'm used to. What about a left nav? These are maybe. I do like what Charlie did, where he does have a work page, but it's kind of subtle and hard to find. But he's highlighting his other pages because just for SEO purposes, that might be useful. If somebody's Google searching like Nick Vasile work or projects or something, and then that page came up, that could be something to consider. I could be overthinking this as well, but that's just a thought. So let's change that from projects to, well, let's keep it as projects just so we maintain consistency here. And maybe let's think about having this be like NB, more of a logo, kind of my current logo, just my initials. But it works. That's not perfect, but it'll play. Maybe make this larger. Make the logo bigger, you know, that's what everybody wants all the time. These feel big. Maybe we can make these smaller. Ooh. Yeah, I like that direction though. That way we can bring them even closer to the top of the page, have a little bit more breathability here. And honestly, they're a little far away from each other now. And maybe that's okay. Maybe this can have 40, but these will have 30. Can I do that? Can I do one more? Cool. Maybe something like that. Because I kind of like what we have. Yeah, it just feels unbalanced, but that's kind of what we want to have. I don't really want to put these links on the left-hand side, or the right-hand side rather, because I don't want to really cover up the image that we're going to put in there, or the graphic. I haven't thought about what that's going to be yet. That's going to be a fun design challenge here. I mean, let's look at it though. This is what we're here for, to experiment with design and get a feel for how things look. And Sketch makes it really nice to do that. That could work though. I can see the appeal of that. But what if we... I feel like I'm probably fighting this a little bit in my head because I'm used to doing right aligned navs as opposed to left aligned. And both are certainly appropriate. That's just me probably pushing back mentally. I'll probably sleep on it and then look at it again. So, but I think having the navigation, I know we didn't at first, and we talked about that a lot last week, kind of experimenting. it's the same reason like why we don't use, or we tend not to use carousels, or we talk about hiding things behind hamburger menus. When you have your navigation out there in the open, people can look at that and say like, oh, this is what the site's all about. And I think that's also pretty important as well. So that's kind of where my head's at with that. I don't know, it just feels weird over there. Let's put on, maybe just to make sure my head doesn't explode, we'll put it over here for now. Maybe a little bit more like there. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. And that will obviously get a lot of work as we tweak this. Maybe we'll make it fixed, maybe we'll make it just absolute. I'm not quite sure exactly what I want to do there, but that's the plan. Okay, and I'm actually going to make this, I don't need to make it a symbol. Okay, so I duplicated this because that is our landing page. Actually, this was kind of our landing pages experiment, so I'm going to change this up. I'm actually going to switch this over too. Let's see. So that'll be landing pages. And then this can be, I like using pages in Sketch because it kind of just helps me clean up, keep my thoughts in order. And so this will just be wireframe experiments. And we'll bring over our kind of finalized quote-unquote landing page. Obviously, plenty of room to tweak and improve this, but for the most part, I'm feeling pretty good about it. And now I can duplicate that and kind of say, okay, this will be, let's start with so what do we have here? We have about, we have projects, we have career, and we have blog. All right, I want to get rid of career because I don't want a separate, I used to have a separate page for that. But I don't know if I want to keep having one, so. I mean, it's kind of my LinkedIn. It's the only reason I keep my LinkedIn around, I think, these days. Just because it has all of my career experience over time. That would have been the advantage of making that a symbol, is I wouldn't have to worry about it. A sketch symbol, sorry, I'm talking about two different things now. Yeah, I don't think it's bad. I think it's nice. I think making them a little smaller helped too. So definitely pretty cool. Okay, so let's talk about the about page. And so I'm going to make this bold to make this obvious that they're on the about page. That's important. I think sometimes we forget to do that. It can be easy to miss. I think my current site does that. Yeah, it kind of makes it a little bolder just to help the user orient themselves a little bit more. And let's look at, for some inspiration here. I know Justine has a great about page. She wrote a whole short story about herself, which I think is pretty awesome. And then it looked like Charlie has a pretty cool page. I'm not a photographer, nor do I have photography friends close to me. So it's kind of hard for me to do really cool photos like this of myself. So I kind of have to rely on this like one photo I had taken of me several years ago, and that's kind of all I got. Yeah, so I don't have headshots. I should go get headshots. Really, is what I'm trying to tell myself and rationalize that expense. I guess I've got some photos from my wedding and stuff like that I can use, but so they've kind of got really nice sections here about themselves. It's interesting that she gets rid of her nav almost. She doesn't really have a nav to begin with. Yeah. And it's just this back to home, which is nice. I think it's kind of interesting way to approach it. Charlie's kind of got his side nav here. And Derek has his nav. I kind of like this approach. So let's try. I'm wondering if I want to keep this kind of graphic going, or do I want to go to more of a traditional hero image? So the pros and cons to that are like, this is unique, right? It's visually interesting. It's kind of hard to do, and it might, like, I was thinking of doing like more of an illustration on the landing page, and I wouldn't want to necessarily have to make one for every single page because I'm not a great graphic designer, so that's going to take me a long time to do. The other thing we could do is just put a picture back there and just kind of be like, done. But I don't like doing that because it's hard to, like, I want the picture to be of me. I don't have tons of pictures, so it's hard sometimes to be like, okay, this is relevant photography to the site. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people just kind of throw up the generic photo, and we're a coding site, so we're going to have a guy on a laptop, and that's going to be our photo, which is great. It works, but it doesn't really connect to your brand. And I think the sites that or the experiences where people really think about how does the imagery really connect to to what I'm talking about, those are the best ones. So I don't know if I want to do that on every single page. So let's, I think, tentatively scrap this. But I'm going to keep the spacing. I don't know. Just trying to experiment a little bit, think out loud. Let's see. Excuse me. The other thing we can do is just not even have a hero section. Just have that thought. So something like this. I kind of like what Derek was doing with the hey there. Keep it personal, right? And maybe if I grab this little about me, it's kind of how I like to start my intros. At least in writing. In person, I don't have a little spiel that I say. Hi, I'm Nick. That could work. Something like that. And maybe this should be the top part of this. Yeah, that's too far. That seems to be on the right track. And then maybe down below, I guess I'm getting into the content. So that could be an approach. The other thing I could do is, and let me get rid of all this on these pages. Keep the footer though, because we're going to be reusing that. So that's an approach. Oh, this not copied. That's weird, that should have copied. What is going on here? That's very strange. Hope Sketch is not about to blow up on me. So what was I saying here? So maybe something like, hi, I'm Nick, and then not having an image, like a background so much, but maybe bringing this over and having more of like my photo here. And we can adjust this as needed. Cool. Let's roll with that for the time being. That might be too many characters on that line. I don't want to count them right now, so maybe we'll just make it a little more like that. Those borders were throwing me off. This feels a little bit more personal. This is kind of more or less what Justine was doing. Hers goes all the way to the side of the page. So her image though is all the way to the side. It's kind of downspaced. I don't know. So that's an approach. It's kind of a tagline. I don't know. Yeah, that could be 16. Why not? And then this could just be the rest of the text that I want to write about myself. Maybe this becomes a little smaller. So this could kind of be more of a tagline. And that line hides too much for this. It's at like 28. And I would just put more details in there, which I don't really, I need to write. So that would be the next part of this. And whatever that would look like. And then just kind of going to the footer, right? Keeping it not super, oh, is that where that rectangle was? Great. Did I not group this? Thought I did. Alrighty, so let me copy that. Okay. Now I can bring this up. So like, oh, that's not great spacing, but it'll work. Alrighty there. And then this guy can be way shorter. Oop. Grab the artboard. I don't know. I like this approach, this direction here. I think it's much more personal than kind of just having a big hero. What is going on with my artboards here? Oop. I hope I didn't just delete all of that. All right. Well, anyway, we can get rid of that one entirely. Been doing this for. Need to take a little break. Just doing this for too long sometimes. Let's see here. That could kind of be the about page there. I think that's nice. It's personal. I could write a little bit longer narrative about myself. Still have the contact me. Still have that kind of information there. Maybe a back to home button. I think that's kind of nice as an out for the user. Just to, I think whenever you give a user kind of a long bunch of text to read, giving them some sort of a call to action to kind of be like, hey, we know you're done, or you should be done if you've reached this far on the page. So here's the next thing you can do. I always really appreciate that, at least in my own reading, and something I do on my blog currently. I try to I have like recommended articles at the end, and so I just think that's a nice way to let the user know, hey, there's more you can do on this website than just kind of hang out here. So I like that. I think that's kind of nice. You could also say like get in touch here. You can give them a more action-oriented call to action. But at this point, I kind of want them looking at the rest of my, or honestly, like, if I guess we're gonna have like a projects page and a blog page, so maybe multiple options here. Let them choose what they want to see next would be interesting. So maybe something like this even. So we could, oop, that's caps. Oh. And I don't know if they would be buttons or links, which would be better. That would be an interesting user test. -2. I don't know, something like that. Home. And I think, like right now, it's going to just say home, blog, or projects, home, and blog. But this, you can make this really fun. Like the call to actions here, like I don't know, like back to the beginning. I don't know. I'm torn between sometimes being too cute with your button copy and actually letting the user know exactly what they're getting into. I think letting them know what they're getting into is generally a better approach, and it's a chance to reinforce your information architecture and your labels for them. But you know, it's just kind of a fun thought to think about. And blog. And we'll subtract 12. Great. I don't know, just so they have some options for where they can go next. So we're coming up on our 2 hours here, more or less, and I don't know if I'm going to start another page or not, because I don't want to I don't want to start and then not really finish here. Sometimes it's good to leave it on a high note and not focus so much on just trying to scramble to get something else. But this has been a wonderful, wonderful stream. Thank you for the subs, La Friedel and I am Fraser. I really appreciate it. Or Fraser K, I guess would probably be the better way to say it. I keep trying to put all the usernames together, but they could be independent words. I think we've made a ton of progress here. I'm really happy with how this landing page is turning out. I think this is it's kind of the improvement that I needed and was looking for in my portfolio. So this is going to be awesome to focus a little bit more on my project. I think it's going to be great. Kind of coming up with those case studies will kind of be next on the agenda. And then I kind of want to do the blog pages next, because that's more structured content. It's content that's going to be more templatable. I'm thinking about making the projects each a designed page in and of themselves, but that will come from the case study itself as well. It's something I need to kind of consider and think about. So that's kind of what I'm mulling over in my head as we approach this. And awesome. So again, thank you so much for the subs and the follows. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned on Twitter for any updates next week. Wednesday, again, we're doing the old portfolio review. I've got a full docket of portfolios to review, but if you would like yours done as well, feel free to send them my way on Twitter, and I will add them to the list. And stay tuned for the stuff like the Discord and some of the other fun stuff that we're working on. It's gonna be fun. So again, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.